But you also have to say, like, it's okay to ask questions. There's, like, the more questions you ask, the better off you're going to be. So ask me everything, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to ask a dumb question. I don't. My favorite thing that they always say is, I don't want you to be mad at me. And I'm like, why would I be mad at you? If you're
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the West Coast Initiative. I'm your host, Alex Castillo, here with another exciting episode. And today we interview Jenn Ogilvie, who is the Disney store manager at both Fashion Valley and at the Carlsbad outlets. She's a phenomenal leader who has helped open many Disney stores throughout California, also in Canada as well, which is a fun talk that we talk about because, I didn't know the differences of having to go through different regulations and laws in Canada. It's definitely an interesting one. She also tells us about how she became a strong leader through different retail jobs, how she got a mentor and strive to network with other people as well, and also knowing the difference between leading and managing. It's a great listen to, especially to learn about the Disney retail world, for anybody out there who's trying to get into the retail world. So without further ado, let the talk begin. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the West Coast Initiative. I'm your host, Alex Castillo, here with another amazing episode. And today we have Jenn Ogilvie, who is the manager of the Disney store at Fashion Valley and as well as manager of the Disney outlets in Carlsbad, right, Jenn?
Yeah, I did both stores.
Mm-hmm. All right. And she's, I've known her for a very long time. She's opened multiple stores throughout California, I believe even throughout nationwide, to be honest. But she's also come from a very long retail background, which, I'm excited to get you on the show, Jenn, because there's a lot of people who are trying to be an entrepreneur, wanting to start their own, clothing line and whatnot. And you have kind of seen different types of brands, different styles, sold different ventures and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And now you've made it to a phenomenal career at the Disney store, I believe. And like, I truly believe that because I've worked under you and your leadership is impeccable to a lot of people who I've worked under. And so I'm very honored to have you on the show. So how you doing today?
I'm great, Alex. It's so good to see you.
I know, it's awesome to see you. I feel like it's I've been seeing you more frequently for some reason. It's like, oh my God, I have Jenn back in my life again. Which is good because you are very, like I said, you were a mentor to me at one point in my life, and I still continue to see you as a mentor as well. So how are you? How are the COVID times for you and your family?
Doing well. I mean, we're making it as best we can, but we are just living day by day with the new rules, updating daily.
And how's the store? How's the Disney store at Fashion Valley and Carlsbad?
So we're doing well. So I oversee directly Fashion Valley, and then I supervise the store manager at Carlsbad. So I help them out quite a bit too. I think we're all doing the very best we can. But I feel like we're still being very successful, and even in a pandemic.
Oh, really? And so the last interview I did was with Velocity Paintball. It was interesting coming from an paintball industry where it's like, in the past it's kind of died down a lot, but this last year in 2020 the paintball industry kind of went up in a rise actually, and they were actually mentioning they did better sales this last 2020 year compared to 2019, which was actually a great news for Velocity Paintball. Shout out to them for being on the show as well. Have you guys seen a difference also as well? Like, has it been good, bad throughout this COVID times compared to the last few years?
Well, I mean, traffic is because of stay-at-home orders, traffic is considerably down across the country in retail establishments, not just us. So I think you have to combat that. I know at the beginning of 2020, we were doing really well all across the board. I think sales-wise, we're still doing very well. We're really not allowed to speak specifics about sales, but I would say even in the mall, I'd say the trend is that you're starting to see traffic build a little bit by little. It's incremental, so it all builds on top of each other. But with stay-at-home orders coming and going and capacity amounts coming and going, we go from 50 to 25 to 20 back to 25. So it's kind of all over the place. You have to manage the people in the building and you have to manage the people outside the building, and you have to make sure that you're keeping apprised to all the safety protocols for city, state, your mall. If you happen to be working in a mall, there's different rules, whatever company, our company, I would say, has much stricter rules than other stores in the mall. We're much more in line with CDC guidelines. I would say even in some cases we exceed them. So, it just depends on your particular business that you're in, but it's not like nothing I've ever seen before. And it's very difficult some days. And I think it's very hard physically, mentally, and socially, right? Like you can't even be with people. It's really different. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I went to see the store, it's kind of crazy because I feel like by the way, the Fashion Valley store, to the audience, it's called the Imagination Park store. It's designed for basically that experience, that Disney experience, that you have that feeling when you go to an actual Disneyland park. That's why they focus so much on the store being called an Imagination Park. But I remember in the middle of the store, there's a theater, and there used to be benches, and it was very like, it was kind of like the kids kick it spot a lot. I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of like the kick it spot, not for the employees, but for the guests to go in there, sit down, their children to be able to interact. And I see that the benches are gone, and it's not that it's like it's a different view of I was seeing it before,
But
and
I get where
yeah,
you're going. So we kind of consider ourselves an entertainment company, right? As
yeah,
opposed to a retail store, we're an entertainment store. So our whole goal prior to COVID was that we had lots of guest engagement. It could be kids of all ages. It didn't have to necessarily be kids, but we did have a coloring table where the kids could come in. There were benches. You had complete control of what played in the theater on the screen. The guests did, as well as the cast. We were able to change stuff up if we wanted to hear sing-alongs, where we wanted to do
yeah,
birthdays, or we wanted to do, first time in the store, or like their first trip to Disneyland, and they wanted to celebrate that. We had the opportunity to be able to do that, but because we really have to reduce the dwell time, and we have to reduce because there's so many people outside trying to get into the
yeah,
store because of the capacity, we really don't have the opportunity to do that, and we can't stand near anyone, and we can't, we would engage with children and teach them how to dance in some cases, and teach them how to color, and we would like, let's learn how to draw Mickey Mouse. We can't do any of that. I had someone the other day that said, can you celebrate my birthday? And I felt so bad. It's the first time anybody's
oh,
asked me in a year. We would give birthday buttons. We would do a celebration. We would sing to them, and we can't do any of that. We can't even hand them a button,
oh
right?
my, no,
We can't.
really, no buttons.
No,
Oh,
you
wow.
can't hand anything. We had opening ceremonies. A lot of people are familiar with Disney stores opening ceremonies where they get a key and there's a whole process to it, and it's really fun and exciting. You have a script that you get to read, and you really get to be like a performer. We don't have that ability either, at least until we can kind of figure out how COVID works on an everyday basis. We don't do that either. So I feel for the cast that we've lost a lot, because it's fun for us, but I think for the guests too, like, it's just what has to happen at the moment. We have to be very safe, and it's unfortunate.
I know, and I've heard it's also even at the parks it's changed a lot. I believe
Mhm.
also the memberships are also canceled. That you can, I don't know if you can correct me on that, or if
The
that's
annual
true.
passes, they've stopped the annual passes. I really don't know much more than what the average public does at this point. They're changing the whole system. I know
Mhm.
that California and well, Florida's the only one running right now, and so they've still got their system going forward. But California, I mean, we really don't have an open date, and I think until then, they really have to make sure that they do what's best for the guest. And I think
Yeah,
having people hold on, this is my opinion, but I think having people hold on to annual passes so that they'll be the first ones in the door, it probably isn't fair.
yeah, you're right. And you know what? Let's go back to your backstory, honestly, because
Mhm.
I know we definitely got into COVID, but for the audience who wants to know who is Jen, the accomplishments you have achieved, can you tell us a little bit on your retail backstory? Like, where did you start? How did you
Yep.
end up going to Disney and helping the Disney stores open so many?
So I started working retail when I was about 20 years old. I got a part-time job at a record store. Music Trader was a big San
Yeah.
Diego name for many, many years. I worked all through college for them. I became, I moved multiple, they had many, many stores. I think they had like 16 at their peak.
Oh
I
wow.
worked in many, many stores, and I was a store manager there. And I think you and I had talked about this a long time ago. I was probably the worst manager you could ever imagine. I was very young. I did not know what I was doing. I was not empathetic. I didn't know rules. I didn't know laws. They just kind of gave me keys and let me run wild. And it was like Lord of the Flies. And I, but it was a great experience in the same mode. I really, I gained my first mentor there, the owner, Debbie Clark. She was my first mentor. Just seeing a woman in power and in position was, really exciting to see. I moved from there. I moved to Boot World, and I worked. And I moved to Boot World because my mom worked in the industrial. She worked in a safety department for Kelco, and she happened to know someone that sold safety boots. And then I got a job through them, and I was an assistant manager for them for a couple years. I didn't love it, but I learned more than I ever could have about anything else. And now I know way more about cowboy boots and safety boots, and I could tell you about how shoes are made. And I got this great.
Actually, I have a question. Patty was just because I'm looking to buy steel toe boots because of work now. She was telling me, I don't know if you know, but she was telling me that I have to break them in like before I even wear them. Like, is that so that's actually true? I have to break in the boots before I can actually wear them.
Well, if you don't want blisters, yeah.
So how do you break them in? I'm like, I'm intrigued.
What kind of boot are you getting?
I mean, it would be for work. So I'm like, I'm sorry?
Is it a leather boot?
No, it'd be work boots, like lugs or like stuff like that.
Like, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would wear them. Lots of socks on them. You can spray half parts alcohol, rubbing alcohol and water. That'll help break your shoe down a little bit. If it's a leather boot, you could use a mink oil. Like, remember old Doc Martens? You would break them down with mink oil, like any kind of leather softener, like you would use on like on a baseball glove. So you can get them stretched. You can take them to the shoe place and have them stretch them. You can, honestly, I ordered one on Amazon because I'd worn boots for so long that I was like, oh, I can do it myself. Yeah, you can stretch them out. So, I learned all this weird stuff that I never thought I would. I then went and I was an assistant manager there. I wanted to become a store manager. I didn't feel like I could get anywhere else with that company, but I really, again, had a great store manager, and she was wonderful and just kind of taught me how to really talk to people and trust people. And her name was Mary Brinkerhoff, and she was phenomenal and still is. Then I had the opportunity to go back to work for Debbie Clark. And she owned another style of like record company for a while. I worked for her, became store manager again. Had finished out through college, was kind of looking for other stuff to do. Then I got a job with Fredericks of Hollywood. Just happened to know someone. Again, it was all networking, knew someone that knew someone, and they said, hey, they need a job. Interviewed with them, had a really great time working there. Like, again, learned things that I'd never thought I would know, but learned how to do inventory, learned how to order, learned how to really run a team that was bigger than 4 people, because that's really all I'd ever run before then. Worked in multiple stores, started becoming known in these jobs as someone that really knew their operations, knew the rules, knew all of the opening and closing procedures, could go into any store and help out whenever they needed. Started going to stores when they didn't have teams or they needed to do hiring. I became kind of a networking manager, did a lot of hiring for other stores, did hiring for my stores. I was recruited from Fredericks of Hollywood to Limited 2. The manager worked next door, the district manager. So she recruited me. I did the same thing for them. I worked for them for about 8 years. They were a fantastic company. I learned how to do reporting. I learned how to read statistics. I learned how to manage people. They really gave us management skill sets, like learning how to talk to people and be in classes. And, we were still dealing, most of my staff were teenagers and I was the adult in there, which was kind of weird because at that point I was always the same age as everyone else. And I started becoming older and older and had to really figure out, like, I had to get on their level, but still needed them to respect me and had to learn kind of an emotional intelligence. How do I get to their level? How do I get what I need from them? But how do I make sure that they're still, following the rules, doing everything you need to? When you work with minors, you have to keep really good track of when they clock in and when they clock out, because they have to make sure that they stay in guidelines for the city. So that was
Oh,
interesting.
wow.
When I got recruited to Disney, it was almost 11 years ago. In June, it'll be 11 years. It was the same person that recruited me to Limited 2. She recruited me to Disney, and I was, it wasn't quite sure I wanted to go, but the signs kind of were there, and she gave me a great opportunity. And then really I learned some stuff. It was, I will say Disney, they do a phenomenal job of giving you the ability and the resources. I will say you probably have to do them yourself.
Yeah.
They're not, but there was a lot of opportunities to learn and do online courses. There still are, to better yourself in your field, to better yourself in schooling, to be able to take care of your finances and their resources. They're such a broad company. They own so many different facets that they really take care of their employees. And I think that I really lucked out.
No, I know what you mean, because I was before I worked at Disney, I was working at SeaWorld. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember and for the audience, I helped opened the Disney Star Fashion Valley. And because I remember there was like this huge building wall, whatever they're building in. They said finding new cast members. And for the
Mm-hmm.
audience, that's how they named the employees. They're not employees, they're called cast members. Because kind of like what Jen said earlier in the show, it's a show for the people who are going into the store. We got front stage, backstage. I think you said green room, one. And they really do have phenomenal names for every single thing. The details is honestly on there. But anyways, I remember I applied, and I didn't really think. I was just like, all right, let me just apply, like see if I might get the job or whatever, because it was like an open interview or whatnot. Anyways, I got the call, got in. We had the first orientation. It was like everybody at this hotel learning like all these new skills, and it's just like, wow, like they really do. It was the first time I've noticed how a company goes into details on training for the new cast members, to try to give this magical moment to everybody who goes into the store, honestly. And it's phenomenal. It's honestly phenomenal company, and how much it's grown. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy, like being buying Fox, buying Star Wars. I'm just like, boom, amazed by how the growth of Disney is. But you mentioned all these places that you've kind of been through and whatnot. What obstacles or challenges did you have during those times, like from the beginning times, like when you said I was not a good manager? Like what challenges did you have make you realize that you had to change your leadership skills?
Um, I didn't listen very well. I think I still have a lot of opportunity there. I like to overspeak. I like to talk over people. like I like people to hear my point of view. So I have to slow down. I have to listen. I have to think. I have to be really empathetic to other people's positions, whether they're mine or not. I definitely did not have that skill set. I didn't, I was running a million miles trying to get everything done and I was trying to do it all myself.
Mm,
You hire really good people and you delegate it and you trust them and you go back and you check it with them and you follow through. And I think that all those things I had to learn along the way. And I still, to this day, still have opportunities in all of those things. Like I'm not I'm not a phenomenon. I make mistakes daily. I think I had to learn how to say I'm sorry. And I
mm,
don't think I knew how to do that before. I had to say, I hear you. Let me repeat back what you said to me so that I can make sure that I'm really understanding what you need. And sometimes it was just standing back and saying, tell me everything. Let me figure out what I can do, and becoming really solution oriented. Maybe that's a really good thing that I learned too. I had this manager one time and I was really upset and I was telling her all these things and, oh, this is going wrong and this and that and that. And she said, can you just kind of cut to the chase? She was very like cut. She was like, can you just cut to the chase and tell me what the solution is? Or are you just complaining? And I was like,
oh.
okay. I guess I better have a solution next time and talk to you. And it like made me change the way I spoke to her and how I spoke to her. And she did not want to hear all the it's and bats. She would ask me if she didn't understand something, but I really needed to be solution oriented. And I think that, that helps too. Like, ask the people what their solution is, and see if they can come up with it themselves. Trust your people. and surround yourself with amazing people too. I mean, the better the talent, the better the work is going to be. You're going to like coming to work if everybody's doing their job right.
Yeah. Everybody's being a team player at the end of the day, and so those now, right now that you said building a team, what are your, like, what are, if someone who is an entrepreneur has a retail store but wants to hire the right people, what do you look into the person when you're hiring?
They probably need to be excited or enthusiastic about whatever the product is that we're selling. They need to be able to communicate effectively upwards and downwards. Like, they need to be able to put things in really clear, crisp language to sell to someone, right? But they also need to be able to kind of, probably as they move through their ranks, they need to be able to kind of change the way that they talk to people too. When you're speaking to an executive, you probably want to use better vocabulary than you do to someone like, hey, it runs really well. Like, this is an effective running shoe. You probably want to change the way that your vernacular, you want to change the way you talk to people. I think going and learning and seeing whatever business classes there are that you can take to kind of improve your skill set. I have a degree in industrial psychology, and a lot of it was business management specifically. And I think that I learned a ton out of that, but a lot of it was real life, because every paper I wrote always ended up coming full circle back to what I learned at work. So I think that you learn on the job, but you also take in anything you can find. I think if you can find like 7 effective daily habits, like, I think anything
that's a good book.
anything to better yourself. I have this really great read right now. It's called Dare to Lead. It's by Brene Brown. She's fantastic. And she really teaches people how to be vulnerable and how to not be scared, and not to be, or not even necessarily, but acknowledge that you have all of those things going. She's man, every book she comes out with, I grab. And she's got a podcast. If anybody,
I gotta check it out.
Yeah, I think it's called Dare to Lead. But she's fantastic. Like, she's a real down home kind of Southern girl, and she just says, like, she's been doing research for most of her career, and she really can talk about vulnerability at work and in life. It's great.
And with being on that topic, I feel like there is, of course you are a manager at the Disney store, but I feel like there's also management and then leadership, right? Like, it's sometimes I feel like it's mistaken that it's the same thing. How do you differentiate, like, like management and leadership?
Well, just break the words down, right? Like, managers manage and leaders lead. So you can decide if you want to be a manager, you're going to supervise someone constantly, and you're going to tell them how to do things, and you're not going to get off their backs, and you're not going to give them freedom to grow. And you're going to be, you're like step one constantly. Or you can lead, and you can be a coach to them, and you can tell them that, okay, maybe that's not how I would have done it, but show me what you did. Okay, now do it again. So you're checking for understanding, you're testing them, you're teaching them. And then you're going back and testing them again, just to see, if they're learning. And you can coach it. The best thing about a coach is that they're not hitting the ball for you, but they're telling you how to put your arm up, how to swing through, how to step in, right? So I think coaching is the best part of being a leader. And then there's partnership. They get so beyond the scope of coaching that you can partner with them on a lot of things, and that's where you can have them start teaching other people. And that just really is where you see the growth, because they grow as people, because now they are mentoring someone else, and you're checking in just as a partner, as opposed to a coach who's like, hey, put your arm up a little. Sometimes you got to go backwards and be like, hey, take 2 steps back, 1 step forward. The worst place you can be is supervise. Like, it's exhausting to you, and it's exhausting to them.
No, you're right. And that's funny. Would you tell that to yourself when at a younger age about the whole leadership?
Oh my God. If I could go back and talk to her, there's so many things I would tell her, but yeah, a lot of it would be, you're hanging out and supervise all day long and telling people how to do their jobs. And if you gave them a little room, you could be their coach. And being a coach is so much more fun. Like, it is. It's just more fun. You can really, if they're not doing something right, you can go back and coach it. And, I think we talk about that at work all the time, is I don't want anyone to give me feedback because feedback is just like, nah, nah, nah. It's like Charlie Brown's teacher, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody wants Charlie Brown's teacher to talk to him. But if you're getting a coach, like coaches are motivational. Coaches are going to tell you you can do it. Here's how you can do it. Let me help you. Let me show you. Let me do it once and then you do it. Like being a coach is so much more fun.
Yeah. And
Nobody wants Charlie Brown's teacher.
I remember you were telling me the other day when we saw you at the store, you were helping your cast members to get into their 401k, or you look into that Disney pays for schooling and whatnot. And I think that's amazing that you're encouraging that, because not a lot of places encourage that, even if they offer it, right?
Right.
Like you're actually helping them, like, this is an opportunity you can take, like, to let work here and let Disney pay for your schooling.
That's so right. I'm a coach, right? Or a mentor, even if that's where we're going to go. Like, if I'm going to be their mentor, I'm going to tell them, like, here's some great things that you are not taking advantage of. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to put your hand to you and say you have to do it. But if you're not doing it, you're not getting the best benefit out of it. Like Disney has a great program called Aspire, and any part-time cast member can join and they will pay for you to go to college. I have a leader right now that's in her senior year and she took full advantage of it. And she's who I show everybody. I'm like, look, she's working part-time. She's got kids. She's got a full life, but she's able to go to school online and she's so close to her degree. Like, and chances are she'll probably leave.
Yeah.
We probably won't get to keep her, but the whole thing is that's for the benefit of her life, right? Like we have to make them better so that they go away and they make their lives better, and then we get a new one and we do the same thing. Like that's my life, right? How many times do I see you and you come in and I'm like, oh, my baby had a baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was just thinking that right now. I'm like thinking about me leaving, and we're still in contact. We still, I still feel like you're, like I said earlier, you're like one of my mentors when I was growing up too at the Disney store. And that's funny now that years later I'm bringing my son to the Disney store and meeting you.
I know. I can't believe I'm still 28. It's really strange.
28 and holding, right?
Yeah. But like I've seen, oh my gosh, I've been there for 11 years. So I've seen, the average life of a cast member is maybe, if we're probably 1.5 to 3 years, if we're lucky. And I've got some people that have been there for 7 or 8 years with me now. Like I've seen their families grow. I've seen their kids go to college. I've seen their kids have kids. Like, it's amazing. I don't like the cliche of it's a family, because we're not family, we're coworkers, but
yeah,
I work together with them some days longer than I get to see my family. So, I really put a lot of trust and effort and caring into these people, and I get it back tenfold. Because they come and see me with their little babies.
And it was fun. I'm glad that I can take Thiago to that Disney store, just tell him in the future when he grows older. Yeah, I opened that store, that manager made me become the man I am today too, helped me become where I am. So that's an interesting light, how you I didn't even think about, I'm all thinking about me, like, oh my God, me and Jenn are so cool. I didn't even think about all the people you have like really touched in their lives. It's cool. It's really amazing.
It is my favorite thing when someone says, Jenn, there's a former cast member out here for you. I'll be in my office and I'm like up to here with paperwork and I'm stressed out, and they'll say, oh, his name is Alex. And I'm like, oh, there's 3 Alexes. Who could it be? It's one of them. Like, I'm so excited. I don't know which
number one.
Yeah, number one. But you know what I mean? Like, or, it's, hey, it's Eddie. And Eddie is like become this massive, like,
oh, shout out to Eddie.
Right? He's become this businessman. He lives in San Francisco, but every time he's in San Diego, I get a visit.
What's he doing? What's he doing in
last time I talked to him, he was doing like computers, but I mean, they all come back. They all show up. They all will walk in and be like, I just wanted to see if I knew anybody. And oh, there you are, Jenn. And I'm like, oh, you guys, like, I'm running multiple stores now. So you gotta text me, or you gotta ask him to make me come out in the back, not on stage as much more, but yeah. I love it. It makes my day. It makes my day.
That's good. No, and it's inspiring too, that now that I know that Eddie comes and visits you, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure even like Maddie, when she's in town, she'll probably come and visit you.
Yep.
Man, it's getting really nostalgic for all those times I used to work there.
I will say social media makes life really, really
Yeah.
easy too. I get to watch everybody grow up and everybody have these kids, and like it's so great. Like, because I can be like, oh my God, like look what I think I sent you a message. I was like, man, I just love watching your family grow from afar. It's like my favorite thing to do. I got 15 minutes. I'm just doing what Alex is doing.
And it's funny because like so I was in the food industry for about I believe 8 years now.
Mhm.
And people who like I've met throughout that time, and I tell them like, oh, I used to work at the Disney store. You used to work at the Disney store? Like they never guess that
Yes,
they would never guess that I worked there. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like and then they come to my house and then they kind of see like the Disney hats and stuff like
they
that.
figured it out.
Oh, they figured it out really quick. but yeah, I did want to ask. So you said about opening stores, and I said, for people out there who, you know, want to know what's the process of opening a store and stuff like that.
Oh,
You've opened many stores, many
yeah.
stores. What is that process like? What is I don't want to say commitment, but what is that, like organization of having to go into opening a store?
Well, I've had a lot of fortunate experiences with multiple companies. I did it with Limited. I did it with Music Trader a little bit. I didn't do it with Boot World. I did it a lot. Like I've been doing it for many years, and I think it was because I was pretty sound in operations. I think we talked about that earlier. So what operations are is like I can make a schedule, I can hire people, I can make sure that the electricity is going to run in the building, I can make sure that the shipment's going to arrive, I can make sure that there's someone in charge of making sure the visuals go on. I'm not the person that does that, but I have phenomenal partners that do that. So I kind of do all the pre-planning. I'm the one that makes sure that we have the staff, we have the place, we have the product, everything's going to show up on time. I'm the one that's making the schedules. I'm the one that's, when all hell breaks loose, I'm the one that's calling home base and talking to those people, kind of being the in-between person. I'm probably the one walking around with their head like spinning, like a chicken. But I try to keep it together as best I can. I'm also the one that's like, cheering and getting everybody like pumped up and like, it's okay. We're going to get through this. Like, it's going to take 4 days and we're going to go from nothing to something. It's going to be amazing, and then I collapse every night. get up at 5 a.m. and meet a truck and get ready to do it again, like, because I like what I do.
Yeah.
Like what I do. And so, I've had really great experiences all throughout Southern California with multiple companies. Fredericks of Hollywood, we did a lot of LA stores. That was really fun. Disney's the first one that gave me the opportunity to do internationally. So I went to Canada. I had to open a store in Canada, in Vancouver. And by the way, if you've never been to Vancouver, I had never been. Coolest place ever. Go. It's so neat. I fell in love with that city. Like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's beautiful there. Really? But I would have never gone if I didn't have that opportunity,
True. And is there like a difference, like, from Canada to
yeah. Oh man, I had to do a crash course in Canadian business, and I didn't know what their labor laws were, so I had to have like a real quick crash course. They have to have specific things in their stores that we couldn't. Like, there was a really interesting. Oh gosh, it was so crazy. So we got a pallet full of Marvel toys. Mm-hmm. And the rules for the packaging in Canada is that it has to have multiple languages, one being French.
Oh, wow.
And so the product that we received didn't have any French on it. Pallets and pallets of Marvel toys. Like, I love Marvel. I love their toys. I think they're so cool. And it cost more for us to send it back to the States than it did for us to get rid of it. So we couldn't put it in the stores and we had to get rid of it. And I was like heartbroken. I was like, I can't do this.
No way.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think they would kind of know, though. I mean, in Canada, they speak a lot of French.
That was something that I learned along the way. Like, they also had really interesting, in the particular mall we were in Vancouver, we couldn't deliver trucks during the middle of the day. So we had to get there at like 4 a.m. and deliver all the trucks, and it was all underground, and you had to have specific, because they had different labor laws on like who could take the truck, who could unload the truck, completely different than what we have here. Like, and I'm sure states in the US are like that too, like they all have different rules, but I was only familiar with California rules. And so, I was constantly like checking with all the managers, like, is this right? Does this sound right to you? And they're like, how we do it. I was like, oh, okay.
That's how we do it, eh?
Yeah. I mean, their cast members had to have, they all had to have first aid. Like they had to go take first aid classes before they were allowed to work. Like we don't do that, So it was very interesting.
That's very interesting. I mean, the only time I've ever had to like do that type of certification was like when I was working for a day camp. Well, this was a while back.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It made sense.
Yeah, but not even for a retail store.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow, that's crazy. I mean, to have to go through first aid training. So you said that was in Vancouver?
Mm-hmm.
And where else have you also, like outside of California and Vancouver, did you say?
All California. I got the opportunity to just kind of travel up and down the coast of California, but one of my favorite stores was we did a Fresno store, and we were so close to Yosemite that like on our days off we would like pile up.
Nice.
And we would go up to Yosemite. We did I did a lot of northern kind of Bay Area stores, a lot of those. And then anything down in San Diego, anything San Diego, LA, just depending on the company where I was going. Gotcha. But a lot of San Diego.
Now, I remember last time we talked, you had mentioned that you ask a lot of questions, like you that's one thing that you implement a lot, that like, what about this? What about that? But without asking questions, you really, like I've learned a lot, even from this new job that I'm doing, I have to ask questions because, I don't want to keep on doing something that I think that I'm doing right, and then all of a sudden it's like, you should have asked me in the first time. So can you go into detail what you were actually explaining to me about like how you were talking about that?
Well, it's part of that process I was talking about, like with coaching, right? There's this thing called teach, test, trust. So you teach it, then you test it, and then you trust it. So and that's you as the leader. So the person on the other side should be asking a lot of questions. And if they're not asking a lot of questions, you need to be able to give them the ability to feel free to ask those questions. A lot of people get, I don't want to ask. I don't want to seem dumb. I don't, so when you do teach, test, trust, you teach it. So you show them or you do it, and then you test them. So you're asking them questions. And then, as they're testing, teach, test. So as they're testing, then you start asking, do you have questions? What would you do this? Why did you do that? Because you're testing for understanding as a leader, but you're trying to get them to ask you more questions. But you also have to say, like, it's okay to ask questions. There's, like the more questions you ask, the better off you're going to be. So ask me everything. Cause I know a lot of people like, I don't want to ask a dumb question. My favorite thing that they always say, I don't want you to be mad at me. And I'm like, why would I mad at you? If you're coming to me 3 years later and you've been doing this job every day and you ask me, I will be probably really confused that you're asking me those questions. So I probably will ask you further, like, why are we asking this all of a sudden? Like, where'd this come from? You need a refresher? Like, what's going on? So I guess that would be perceived as like frustrated or you don't understand. But so I think that's where people are like, I don't want you to be mad at me. But like, wouldn't you want to ask that question over and over again so you don't get it wrong? Especially like in your job, right? Like putting together machinery, like let's get it right the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And especially we're doing like this big Tesla project. So we definitely got to be on point on everything that we're doing. So but yeah, you're right. We know it's something that even I was kind of like, not want to say a victim, but I did that a lot. Like I was like, I don't want to ask a dumb question. I don't want to ask a dumb question. And a lot of the times I hurt myself, I shoot myself in the foot when I do something wrong or and then I get yelled at for it.
My favorite thing is right now, because everybody's on Zooms, right? My favorite thing about Zooms is you have one of two people. And unfortunately, it's this way. It's either the person that talks too much or the person who talks too little. And when you really have a question, you're just hoping the person that talks too much asks that question, as opposed to you just saying like, hey, I've got a question, or putting it in a chat if you don't feel comfortable voicing it vocally. But like, you got to get over that. Like, you have to ask the question because you're not going to get the right answer. I was on a Zoom today, and we were talking about moving product around from different stores. And, I was like, oh, I wonder about this, and I'm not exactly the quietest person. So I'll speak up for myself if I feel it's necessary. But, you got to ask the questions. Like, you're going to get stuck in this position, and then you're going to be running around with your head cut off trying to call everybody else, trying to figure it out when you could just ask the question in the first place.
Yeah.
I think you have to find the understanding and feel comfortable, but it takes a while too. Like, I get it.
No,
It takes a while.
You're right. And, you explained the trust exercise that you have.
Mm-hmm.
What other exercise do you use with your cast members to, I think you were telling me the other day, like one that, like, how would you sell this product or anything like that? Like, what exercises do you do with your cast members to help them either be more persuasive in their selling or be more of teamwork effort? What exercise do you do?
So you got to sell what you love. So make sure you like what you're selling, right? Make sure you like where you're working. Yeah. Make sure you like what you're selling. Make sure if you have a particular thing that you really love, you know the most about it, and find out everything you can about it. A lot of the times in retail, specifically like hardline retail, you can find out everything you want on a box. Like, it'll tell you how tall it is, what it says, what kind of batteries it uses, right? Like a toy, if you're selling a toy, you can find all that information out of the box. Or we have this fun thing called a phone nowadays, and you can look it up on the website and you can find out all the information. Soft lines work very much the same way. You can look up everything that you want about what's it made out of. A lot of the times for clothing, if you're selling clothing in particular, you can just pull the label out and be like, oh, it's 50% polyester. So it's probably not going to shrink that bad because polyester doesn't shrink. It's got a lot of stretch in it, So if you find things out about that kind of a garment, if you're selling it, like we do both, we sell soft lines, we sell hard lines. And for our team, I'm always like, go find the thing you love, because you're going to sell the thing you love. You're going to sell whatever's on sale, right? Whatever promo we got going on. And you're going to sell whatever we have that's like a gift with purchase. So there's a couple things that you're always going to sell. In our particular location, we have everything broken down by category or by franchise. So by franchise would be Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, regular Disney, baby, Disney Junior, right? Or we have category, which is t-shirts, mugs, plates, sweaters, purses,
kind of like the general
souvenirs. Oh yeah, all your general merch.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll still see all those franchises. Like, you'll have Toy Story. Let's take, for example, it's going to be in the t-shirts for the category. It's going to be in the mugs for the category. It's going to be in the souvenirs. It's going to be in all those things. So if you become familiar with the franchise, so Woody and Buzz, then you go and say, okay, where can you find Woody and Buzz in our particular store, let's say? And they're going to be like, oh, it's on that wall, but then it's also in the PJ wall, and it's on the t-shirt wall. And then it helps them sell, because then they can put basically packages together, right? This goes with this because it's the same character. Or you can say, like, Marvel, here's Spider-Man. Oh, but here's Venom. Like, we have Venom, we have Venom PJs, and we have Spider-Man backpack. And, so once they become familiar with the product, but the great thing about Disney is that we own so many different franchises that you can be like, oh, I don't love Disney, I don't like Mickey Mouse, but I love Star Wars. Yeah. And I love Marvel, right? And I love Pixar. So, like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I guess, and now I like Fox, so I like Bart Simpson, right? So, like, I like all these things. So, like, you realize, oh, I guess I do like Disney, but maybe I don't care for, like, the traditional characters, the standard characters.
Do you guys have Simpsons stuff at the store?
Not yet, but I'm super excited.
Yeah, because we've definitely been watching on Disney Plus.
I was like, Marge Simpson is my new princess.
And I know sometimes that the Disney store or the Disney company will actually have like kind of like add-ons and stuff like that. I remember that. How do you because I know some cast members at the time, quote me if I'm wrong, but when I was working there, they kind of like struggled on that, like being able to add on to this, add on to that. How have you been able to cope with that? Like, how have you bettered that type of sales?
So I'll equate this to, which is kind of dry, but if you want to go on a date, and you ask 100 girls, you're probably going to get a date, right? Because you asked 100 girls. So if you ask 100 guests, like, hey, did you want this backpack? Or, hey, you qualify for this backpack because you spent some money today. You probably get a lot of no's, but you'll probably get more yeses than you ever expected to get too. It's just trying. Your law of average is if you just ask everybody, your chances are, like, our big thing right now is we're really trying to get our cast to teach them how to get email capture. We're trying to get guests to come back in the store. It's hard to get, right? Traffic is hard. It's hard to get guests to come back. You want them to shop in your store. And if they're shopping online, they're shopping online and in your store at the same time. That's okay. You got to get the foot traffic in the building, right? So email is a huge thing for us right now that we're really trying to get the cast to buy into. So we do a couple different things. One, we tell them it's your job. So the expectation is set, right? This is the expectation, is that it is part of your job and we need you to do this. But I know a lot of people are going to say no. And I know you're going to be disheartened by it. But if you just keep asking, someone's going to say yes. And that's a win. And every time they say yes, you tell me. And guess what I do? Because who am I? The coach. Yeah. So what do I do for you? I applaud you. Tell you good job. I tell you, and that builds your self-esteem for you to do it again, right? So you're going to want to do it again because it pleased me, and by pleasing me, I cheered you on and told you how great you are. So it's a win-win, right? Oh, yeah. And then the other thing is, then the guest is coming back and they're shopping, and we're getting the benefit of having them shop in line or online, either in store or online. Either way, it's a company. We all win the money. It doesn't matter. But that gets them to go. And then, if they like the product, that's even easier to sell it. Right? So if you get a good quality product, it's a cute blue backpack that's selling behind the register. It's got Mickey all over it, and you like backpacks, or you like Mickey, or, it's $15. Chances are you'll.
No, that's a very interesting perspective, because, and you're right. It's kind of like cliche. You keep asking so many people, one person's going to say yes, but it's kind of true. And some people who are selling either their own stuff or whatnot, they only give it a try for like a little bit, and then they just give up. There
has to be incentive for it. Like, we do some stuff personally. Our leadership team does some great stuff for our team. Like, I will donate $40 in gift cards to the store. Oh. And I'll say, okay, every week, whoever sells the most gets a $10 gift card. And I make it to Starbucks, or I'll make it to our own store, so we get the money for it, which is always fun. Or to online, or I'll do it to like McDonald's 1 week, or I'll do, like, we try to get them little incentives that whoever sells the most, whoever asks the most, whoever gets the most, because they create a challenge between each other then, because once the one person wins, everybody else wants to win. So I'll donate $40 to my team to get them to be the top of the top. That's no problem. That's really a win for us. So there's the incentive in it. But it's asking. The incentive for someone owning their own business or working as a leader, or someone that wants to become better at their job, the incentive is that they're going to make more money, or they're going to make more. And I always equated it to my team. I was like, look, you sell more, we make more. If you make more, I get more payroll. If I get more payroll, I can put you on more shifts. I can put you on more shifts, you got a bigger paycheck. That's how it works. Right? Yeah. Boom. It's that simple. Now, if you ask for all those emails and you're the top one, then you get a $10 gift card out of my pocket.
Y'all hear that, Disney Stores 365? Y'all better put it up.
You better.
So that's really cool that you bring up incentives, because you're right. A lot of people won't do stuff if there's no reward to it, in a way, right? Because it's like, well, what am I doing this for? And that's actually very honorable of you to do that out of your way, just to help your cast members, compete for something, to also get that like self-confidence in themselves to do it.
When they leave the store, like, their lifespan is 1 to 3 years. Their lifespan is not going to be there forever. They're not going to be there forever. My goal is, when you leave this store, that I'm going to give you something great to leave with, that you're going to have stuff that you can put on your resume that's going to make you great, that someone else is going to want to hire you. The fact that it says Disney on there already piques people's interest, because I don't know if you've had it, but people are like, you worked at Disney? What was that like? Like, every interview, it always comes up, right? So there's that. But there's also, like, my goal is to teach you how to communicate with each other, how to communicate up, how to communicate down, how to be able to sell yourself, sell product, how to be able to really be, a team player. And when I mean team player, I really mean team player. Like, we don't earn commissions. We're selling with each other. We're helping each other. We're helping the team. We're helping the store. We get more hours, or we get better product, or we get in line for getting, special edition items over other stores because we're working so hard. We have all these other stores that we have to compete against. There's 200 stores that I'm competing against, so I want to be known as the best of the best, and you can't be that if you're not doing it.
Yeah.
So team has to be on board. They have to have that competitive edge.
And I remember last time we were talking too, you were mentioning about, also the team part, that you have people who speak of also other languages, how a big importance it is for that to help, any guest who comes from any part of the world to come to the store and was asking questions, and there's a language barrier, and you really not relied, but you mentioned that being of importance, and it was really really thought provoking. I was like, oh wow, can you mention more of that to the audience, like why you said?
When we had talked about this, we were reminiscing about when I first took the store over. I took the store over about a year after it opened. And so one of my great skill sets is that I can sit back and assess. I'm good at assessing. I can figure out where the opportunity is really quick. By the way, you can only do that the first couple months you're in the building, because after a while you assimilate and you become the building, and you can't do it anymore. You cannot have fresh eyes if you're completely part of that group. It's really hard. But if you're not part of the group, you can sit back and say, okay, what are the opportunities? So the opportunities in that particular location, where we had this huge Hispanic guest, foreign guest in general. Like, we had guests from all over the world that were shopping in this store because it was a high-end mall, and it was the middle of the city, and it was next to a convention center. So you had people spending high dollars that spoke multiple languages, and we only had one language we were speaking in the store, English. And we had an occasional Spanish speaker that we would have to pull out of the back room. You. Yeah. And how many times would be like, hey, Alex, can you go speak to this lady, because I can't speak Spanish and I need help, right? That was an immediate issue, because the minute I walked in the building, I was like, okay, so in this building that speaks Spanish, there's me, there's Alex, and there's maybe one other person. So we're here. I'm here 40 hours a week. Alex is here maybe 20 hours a week. And this other person's here maybe 15 hours a week. So we've only covered, 85 hours, 75 hours. Yeah. What do we do with the rest of the time? We're open from 10 in the morning until 9 at night. And there's only a few of us. So the first thing for me was I had to find Spanish speakers, because they were our biggest clientele. We had them coming in from South America. We had them coming in from Brazil, so we didn't speak Portuguese, but they spoke Spanish, so we could get away with that. We had a ton from Mexico City, like a huge amount of guests that were from Mexico City specifically. And we really needed to get Spanish speakers in there. So that was my first thing, is that I had to find them. My next thing was that we needed people that spoke sign language. I think I told you that before.
That was interesting. Yeah, that was very interesting.
There's a huge sign, and I don't have enough to cover that, but I have a few, and I put them on my peak hours, hoping that that's when those guests will come in. But I have a few people that can speak sign language, and I have a girl that can speak Japanese, which is phenomenal. We don't have as many foreign guests right now, but when I'm hiring someone, I'll ask them, like, do you have any other special skill sets that I wouldn't know about? Because I can't legally ask, like, do you speak Spanish? Do you speak Japanese? I can't ask that. It's against the law. But I can say, do you have special skill sets? And they'll be like, yeah, you know what? I'm really good at photo editing. I'm like, super, we might need to, hey, I'm really, hey, I got a podcast. Cool. But yeah, that's when I find out those things, is those people have that. And so that probably would make me more intrigued to hire them, or ask more questions about them to see if they fill the skill set. But we had a massive issue with language when I first got there, and we do not have that issue anymore. I would say, I don't know, 75 or 80% of the staff speaks multiple languages.
Wow. And that's cool, because, you looked into that detail that not a lot of people would look into,
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. I remember even when I was working at the Rivals, Geppetto's toy store, a lot of times they would lose a lot of clientele because they didn't have a Spanish speaker at the time, because I wasn't there at work or anything like that. So it's an interesting perspective of having that, and especially, I don't know, I guess I work in the kitchen. I've worked in the kitchen most of my life, I guess now, like well, most of my career, and there's a lot of Spanish speakers for
A
sure.
lot.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's so Spanish is my second language. It's my second language, not my first. And I learned it at home. I had some family members that spoke Spanish, and I went to school and I spoke Spanish, but I did not learn Spanish really until I worked in a kitchen.
Yeah. That's a that you get
I did that like when I was like 18, 19 years old. It was one of the first two jobs. And man, you learn quick. You learn all the good and the bad things.
Oh yeah. That's what we're called back of the house for sure.
Yeah, but it's a skill set. I mean, if you can help yourself with any extra skill sets, and if you're going to school, you should speak a second language. And I would say if you're going to school in Southern California, learn Spanish.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing me and my fiance were talking about our son. We definitely want him to grow up in our household speaking Spanish. Like we want to speak to him in Spanish the whole time when we're at home. Outside of home, he could definitely speak English, but while inside home, because that's how I kind of grew up. I always grew up home Spanish, outside of home English, except for podcasts. Podcast time is English.
Yeah, I think I really wish that I had done that with my children. You know, my older daughter is going to school and learning it in high school. And I really I dropped the ball. I really could have spoken Spanish to her the whole time. And I just was like, but I have a different perspective. I have completely changed my thought process on it too, because I don't realize how I use it every single day. Every single day. I mean, for me, it's kind of great because I don't typically look like your average Spanish speaker, right? No. So for me, it's a great skill set because
the listeners, Jenn is pretty fluent.
I can sit back. I can kind of just sit back and not say anything and just listen in. It's a great skill.
Yeah. I mean, you threw me off a few times when you threw even some of the slang, because your Spanish isn't even, you're formal, but there's some slang into some of your Spanish too. I'm like, oh, Jenn, you know that? All PG rated, of course, but I'm just like, wow.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Any like, we're getting down to the last of the questions. Any message you want to let anybody know out there who wants to become a leader, or not become a leader, but who is managing a team, trying to open up a store, or anybody like that in the retail business? Any message that you want to relate to them that really conveys to you?
Yeah, so the things that we were talking about earlier is, build yourself a great team. You have to have a really strong team. I could not do the job I do without having the leadership that I do. And specifically my assistant manager, her name is Belinda. I could not.
Shout out to Belinda. Woo, woo.
Not run my business the way I do, as successfully as I do without her. She's a great communicator as well. I think so. Communication is really important. I think when we go back and talk about being a leader and being a manager, right? Managers manage, and that's all they're doing is they're managing. Leaders lead. And when you're leading, you're supervising, you're coaching, and you're partnering. You're using teach, test, trust. You're using your emotional intelligence to be able to really break down what the person needs and be able to give it to them, be empathetic and sometimes be sympathetic depending on what it is, but be able to make sure that it's a win-win for everybody. Like, you're facilitating goals for them. And I think if you're working in retail, like, if you're a leader, you have to know that these people are temporary. So for me, I feel like it is my job to imprint on them some great, some partaking gifts. Like, I want them to be able to communicate when they leave. I want them to be able to manage their time. I want them to be able to speak eloquently. I want them to be able to identify and assess situations immediately and be able to figure out what the solution is, be solution oriented, be able to work as a team and not go out for one, because if you cover the team, everybody wins, right? So I think that there's all of those things incorporated. I think as a leader, you really have to delegate and you have to trust people and you have to give them the opportunity. But I think you also have to tell them they're doing a great job, right? There's this really funny technique I always do when someone's not cutting the mustard and they're not doing what they need to do. We always call it the sandwich.
Mm.
Like how many times have I done this with you, Alex? Like, hey, Alex, you're doing a really good job. Can we talk about something? So notice that you're not
Yes.
doing this, and I need you to get to do this. So I know that you can do this, and I want you to do this a little bit better. So I want you to do it. Show me the next time you do it, because I really want to see what you do. And then, hey
Wow, I
man,
did not know you were using
I
that technique
appreciate
on
all
me.
the time that you've done. It's a sandwich, so it's like good, bad, good.
Yeah.
Because you want them to feel good about what they're doing. You want to tell them there's opportunity and they have a lot of room for growth, but you also want to say, hey, I appreciate you. If I couldn't do what I do without you, and you have to be really, really authentic when you're saying it, right? You have to be vulnerable and you have to be authentic and you have to be able to say that. But if you do that, you will get people to want to work for you, and they'll come back and work for you.
You're right. I mean, you're definitely a person I would come back to work for.
Too many people I've had that have followed me from company to company that have gone and done their things and then come back and been like, hey, can I work with you again? Like, I have one right now, 7 years.
Oh, wow.
8 years the last time.
Well, you're definitely phenomenal, Jen. And you know, and I hope the audience now knows, you know, what the Disney store has, you know, a really amazing manager leader that's, you know, definitely helped a lot of people and their lives. You know, you stayed in touch. You know, we and me have definitely stayed in touch, and it's great. It's great to see that there's amazing people out there. You know, like people like you. How was before we go? I wanted to ask, how was the holidays for you guys? Because I know it's holidays are usually a busy time for the Disney store. How was the holidays for you guys?
Still very busy.
Yeah.
We still, it's the time when you see the most traffic you're going to see the entire year. You make most of your money in that time frame. We definitely had a lot of things thrown at us because of capacity and because of COVID and cleaning protocols that we did not have before. But I was so impressed with my team. Like they were able to like really get behind everything. Okay, this is changing. Oh, today this is changing. Oh, tomorrow this is changing. Like that's how it is every day during retail season for the holidays. Like everything changes every day. It's so fast. It's so quick. You know, it's 12 weeks and it feels like 4 years.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Exhausting. But I will say my team was, I mean, we just pulled together. Like we had people out. We had, there at one point we had nearly half of our staff was out due to quarantining or being, having COVID issues. Like
Wow.
It was really, really rough. And everybody just stepped up and took care of each other. And that's why you have a team, right? That's why you have a team. Though I'm so thankful that no one got really, really ill, that everybody was able to come back to work, that everybody was really able to get over their quarantine period and be able to bounce back, and nobody's had any severe side effects, so much. But we were incredibly busy, and we had to deal with guest issues that we've never had to deal with before. Like people are really, they think it's a political thing to put a mask on, and so and you can stand wherever you want with that, but that's not, my job is to make sure the people in the building are safe when you walk in. And so like having to contend with that was really interesting. I've never had so many guest issues as we had with that, especially in the beginning. I think 11 months in now, people have figured it out, but it's sometimes it gets really bad.
I mean, I don't know. I've always, this is my little tangent. It's common courtesy to me, even if you don't believe it. Like it's just like, it's common, especially at the Disney store. Like there's so many kids out there, like going to the store, you would think that people would be more, worried about that. But I mean, it's the world we live in. It's definitely been a crazy even start to 2020.
It's gonna be so funny when you get to look at it in the longer lens, when you get to push back years from now and go back and look at all the things that you did that year and now this year, like but it has changed the way we in retail are. We have curbside service, or now we have shopping from online more so than we ever did before. Now we always had guests shopping in line and on their phone, but it's even more prevalent. Like, will
you guys have curbside?
We don't, but the mall does.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like there's different ways of selling to people now. Like, you know, like there's reserve for a lot of retailers. There's, you know, you have to make reservations to come into stores. Capacity is different. You can't direct sell to anyone anymore. I can't hand something to you anymore. Like,
Oh wow.
you know, it's been interesting. Like, let me put this on a counter for you and you can pick it up, you know, where we're used to like one-on-one and selling to them, having to figure out how to know what all your best sellers are so you can show them. We have, you know, we sell different this year. We had QR codes where they would scan and we'd be like, these are the top 10 sellers. Do you like any of these? Let me go get it for you. Let me put it on a counter because I can't touch you. Like, it's really weird.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it in some aspects. Like some of it made it easier, right? Because during holidays, people want one-on-one and they want this like direct service and you don't have the time. You don't have the time to do it. Where, you know, during the, you know, January through October, you really you can do that. But, you know, in our location, at least, like, but you know, we've had to change the way we sell. And you don't want the guest in there for a long time because you've got a line that for us was like halfway across the mall. So you want to get them in and you want to get them out. So like we don't do
yeah, Belinda was telling me the wait for the time to get into the store was like an hour or two or something like that. I was like,
yeah, like I think an hour and 40 minutes was the longest we had on some peak weekends.
wow.
But you know, we've never had that. We never told anybody they couldn't shop.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, we're an outdoor mall, so now like right this week we've had some weather issues and so that's been
and a little nice break.
yeah, well, like it's raining and we have a capacity of 25%. So only a certain amount of people can come in the store. And so you have to tell people no. And it's really strange as a retailer to be like, can you come back? Can you take a loop around the mall and come back? Like, oh, you have coffee. You can't come in with food or drinks because you'll take your mask off. So no, like, like,
dang, like, man,
we never did that before.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't be another year of this, to be honest, because it's over hitting almost a year mark now of this whole global pandemic. So hopefully it all comes down. Hopefully everything kind of goes back to normal. I think there's some things that is now the new norm. I believe I have a feeling like even the mask part, it's going to become a new norm even in the future. People who are still kind of like sensitive to the whole COVID thing and whatnot. But I mean, like you said, there's some things that turn good, some things that turn bad. So right before we go, anything at the store right now? Like I know you guys usually have like a sale right after Christmas. Do you want to share it to the audience if you guys have any sales?
We've got some great sales coming on. We're actually gonna start. We're changing our format in our particular location, so we'll actually be able to carry more clearance, which is great for us. Wow. And great for the guests because it's good price pointing. So that'll be going forward in the next month. And then we are kind of like your one-stop shop. You know, we have all the back to school stuff coming in. We're doing these phenomenal adult lines that we never did while you were there. Like we really focused on children and now we've really focused on this adult guest. And so we have so much more adult product that, you know, as a fan, it's exciting.
Well, I just bought, I don't think you remember it, but I'm pretty sure you remember. I bought the Darth Vader. Yeah, that was really cool that you guys had it. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, so we've done this really. I mean, with the opening of Disney Plus, we've been able to like share Mandalorian product that we didn't have before. Now we have Marvel stuff, like we have WandaVision from the new TV show, so we have some new products for that. We have a new line that's called Mickey & Co. that we're carrying, which is very like 90s inspired graphics. Like you can totally see yourself wearing this like sweatshirt in the 90s, like absolutely, right? And like backpacks and t-shirts. And then we have an up line. I don't know if you've seen it online, but they've got this up line that is so cool. I bought the money jar for the fall. So it's like the money jar that they have in the movie. They've got pillows, they've got comfort or throws, they've got doormats. It's the cutest thing. I think half my staff bought everything.
Oh wow, I gotta check it out.
Like, you know, like if you're a Pixar fan, there's Pixar stuff, and if you're a Marvel fan, there's some Marvel stuff. Like we're starting to get X-Men stuff in, which is really great.
Oh wow,
because we haven't had it. Yeah, we haven't had X-Men stuff since 2009 because we didn't have the rights to the X-Men because it was Fox. but we own Fox, so now we have it. So that's really exciting to me because I love the Marvel stuff, and then the Spider-Man again with all the Mandalorian stuff. That's been really cool. You were talking about the Darth Vader line that you got, so that's one in many of series that we're going to start getting that line. So that'll be really cool for the adult line. Yeah, they just we're starting to get a lot. The stores have now been incorporated into parks. So we're part of their like umbrella. And so now we're getting stuff from parks, which we never did before. Like we have a Make-A-Wish line, we had a Lunar line. We have Disney Eats, which is kind of between their home line. It's like our own version of their home line. So that's really neat. And then, mugs. We have mugs, a million of them all the time. Great. They smell so good.
My mom is a big collector. If you see her in China, it's full of Disney.
I can remember you always buying Snow White stuff for her.
Yeah, and she still has. Actually, she doesn't. She decided to keep the Belle designer doll. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. She ended up keeping that one, and we sold. I think we sold the Snow White, and I'm not gonna lie, we got a good
money.
Yeah. Not gonna lie.
I have the Evil Queen because I don't collect very many things because I always say like I work in my office is the best toy shop ever. So like I don't need to bring it home because I see it every day, but I have a few things. And one of them is the Evil Queen from that second line. She's beautiful. She's beautiful.
No, those lines are really nice. I'm surprised I guess they are limited, right? They didn't came out with more.
So they have they do new collections every year. So every 2 years they'll have a brand new collection. So it takes about 2 years to get through a whole collection, and usually start in September and they go all the way to October usually. So there's about seven dolls that they'll release. So this last one was Masquerade. So they were all like themed with masquerade masks and stuff. So they do, yeah, they still do it. It's just not quite, it's a different design every time.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Jen, I don't know. Do you want to give out?
Sorry.
I don't know if you want to give out your Instagram or anything like that for any listeners who wants to, ask questions or anything or ask you about Disney. Would you like to?
Sure. It's I don't even remember. It's JOX3 on Instagram. It's easy to find.
And if not, if you guys want to meet Jen, she's at the Disney store in Fashion Valley. You guys here, they're having a sale right now. You guys definitely gotta check the store out. Also, we didn't really get into the outlet one for sure, but you know what? We'll keep that. We'll save that for a later one. We'll definitely have you on in the future. once the whole pandemic is over, so we have to be like, so Jen, what's the difference between pre-pandemic and pandemic?
Right. It'll be different.
It'll be different. All right, then, Jen, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. And I know it's pretty late now. And I know you got to open the store tomorrow, most likely. So have a good one, and appreciate to all the audience. Thank you guys for listening. Catch you guys on the next show.